Hello, my name is Miles Clark with snowbrains.com. Today I'm here with Dr. Fred Ilfeld and Tom Day, who are both on the board of Incorporate Olympic Valley. And we're here today to just learn more about Olympic Valley and chat with these gentlemen. And I just wanted to start with you gentlemen introducing yourselves, what you do with Olympic Valley or Incorporate Olympic Valley, and what you do in your personal lives. Go ahead, Tom.
Tom Day. I'm a board member at Incorporate Olympic Valley. I'm a ski bum at heart and a ski cinematographer.
Fantastic. And Fred?
And I'm a psychiatrist professionally, ski bum also, but I didn't get to do that and live up here full time till I was in my 50s.
It's never too late.
And pardon?
It's never too late.
Never too late. It is indeed never too late, and I'm still on all the slopes.
All right.
Yeah. And I'm retired now from private practice, but I teach at UNR, University of Nevada, Reno, in the Department of Psychiatry. And I'm chair of the board of Incorporated Olympic Valley.
Fantastic. Okay, so I think for our viewers, the first thing people are curious about is, so what is Incorporate Olympic Valley?
Incorporate Olympic Valley is basically, it started off as a group of people who wanted to pursue the concept of incorporating Olympic Valley as a town versus having it run by a board of supervisors, county supervisors in Auburn, California. So what we're trying to do is see if the concept will work here of having a local government. You know, so the decision making for the future of this valley will be made here by the people that live here.
Fantastic, yeah, at a local level versus the county level.
And basically it's having community input into major decisions such as land use, such as different services like road maintenance and snow removal, and having control over the revenues that are generated here.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, one of the big reasons that got us started off one of the big reasons that got us started off first was having a good general plan for the development of this valley. Placer County has a general plan. The latest one was done in 1983. It needs to be updated.
Which is old, yeah.
It costs a lot of money to update a general plan, and it takes a priority. You need to, kind of have a good sense of why you want to change it. And this community, I think, has a good reason. You know, we live here. We want to have a good blueprint for our future.
And when we become a town, we're required to create our own general plan. Not the county does it, but we have to put it together, we citizens.
What's the process of incorporating Olympic Valley?
That's sort of a long story, so I'm going to try and condense it pretty quickly.
Thank you.
But there are a lot of moving parts,
Of course.
and it's hard to keep track of them all. So we're maybe, it's hard to guess, a third, or halfway through the voyage,
Okay.
where we've gotten a petition from the voters of Squaw Valley, registered voters in the valley.
And how many registered voters are there in the valley?
Their last count was 560,
Okay.
and we needed to get a minimum of 25% of those folks to sign a petition saying, let's go forward with this incorporation, with these particular boundaries, which basically is all of Squaw Valley as people know it, under the name, of course, of Olympic Valley,
Right.
because there already is a municipality, not a municipality, but a location called Squaw Valley nearby Fresno. And then there are a number of steps after that. A key one we're dealing with right now is a comprehensive fiscal analysis. That's going to take about 4 months.
Okay.
And in June, next month, LAFCO, which is the Local Agency Formation Commission, which referees the whole process, will award a contract for this fiscal analysis. And that will be done by a financial services firm paid for basically by us, but through LAFCO. And they're a neutral party. And they will look at, basically, is this town fiscally viable? As a part of that whole thing, this is another one of the moving parts, is something called a revenue neutrality negotiation with Placer County. Because by separating, at least in some services and in some revenues, from Placer County, it's a bit like a divorce. And so, since we're the source of revenues here, we'll have to pay alimony, and it's a discussion of how much alimony to pay, and over how long a time.
What is the revenue source of Squaw Valley, of Olympic Valley, excuse me?
So the main revenues for Olympic Valley would be property taxes and the TOT taxes. That's
Okay.
like a hotel bed tax for people that, you know, come and stay and visit and leave. They don't live here.
Okay,
So like if you rent a house, you don't pay a TOT tax.
right.
And that's actually the biggest source is the TOT tax.
It is, okay, and then where does the ski resort fall into that? To the revenue, tax revenue?
They pay property tax.
So,
And they
so-
are-
Because they're owners, they have owners of
Yeah.
the village.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so they're, you know, they own a lot of property here, so they probably pay a fairly good tax into the system.
Well, the ski corporation didn't pay the property tax, the owners do.
okay,
But they're in the village, that is part of the ski holdings.
right, okay. So it's similar, same thing, it's property tax and hotel tax essentially, hotel bed tax.
And they're not the only ones paying hotel taxes and property taxes. There are a number of, you know, like the resort at Squaw Creek, Olympic Village Inn, Squaw Valley Lodge, Red Wolf Lodge,
Right,
Plump Jack. These are all contribute to the mix.
okay. And was there more steps to the process of incorporation? I interrupted you in the middle, sorry.
Well, okay, well,
There is-
to continue on,
Uh-huh.
so after the revenue neutrality agreement is finalized, then the fiscal analysis is finalized.
Mhm.
Because you can't figure out monies until you find out what is the alimony that's being paid.
Mhm.
And then how viable is this town? And at that point, there are hearings. The final draft of final report of the fiscal analysis comes out. And then there are public hearings
Mhm.
so everybody has a chance to voice their views on what it's about and what's happening and what they want. And finally it comes to, not finally, but the next step is LAFCO, the commission, made up of 7 members, votes on whether or not this is a fiscally viable town. We've already shown that we have reasonable boundaries. We've already shown that we have sufficient registered voters. We've already shown that enough people want to pursue this course to go ahead. So then they do an up or down vote. And if they vote yes, we can proceed with incorporation, it then comes to the registered voters of the town.
That's when it comes to ballot.
That's when it comes to the ballot.
And where are we now with this process?
We are at the beginning of the awarding of the comprehensive fiscal analysis.
Okay, I think you mentioned that, okay, great.
Yeah, so the first thing they need to do is figure out whether, you know, we can sustain ourselves.
Financially viable.
The
essentially.
last thing the county or LAFCO or anyone wants is to create a town that's not going to be able to
Let's
take care
kind
of
of go
itself.
bankrupt
Yeah.
essentially.
So this process that LAFCO goes through is a really good checks and balances for all of us. And
Mhm.
it's a great time for the community to become educated as well too about the finances and whether we can, you know, take care of ourselves. You know?
Right. And in your opinion, you two gentlemen, is this a financially viable valley?
Well, one of the first thing LAFCO suggests we do, it's not a requirement, they suggest that we do an initial fiscal analysis.
Okay.
Okay, which is just kind of a quick overall synopsis of the money coming in versus money going out, and that looked good. The initial one looked good for us to pursue this more comprehensive one.
Okay.
But until a comprehensive fiscal analysis is done, and until the revenue neutrality process is done, no one's really going to know whether we're fiscally viable. So at this stage of the game, it's very important that we wait, let LAFCO do its job, and figure it out before we start saying, yeah, we have money, or no, we don't have money. We need to let this process happen.
And this point really needs to be underscored that Tom's saying.
Okay.
That,
Please do.
that some people are judging us as not viable or are viable fiscally.
Mhm.
We really won't know
Until
until this analysis is complete.
you really need a financial professional to analyze
Totally.
every piece of it
Totally,
and
so
put
we don't
together.
get people's
Right.
opinions in a way, or poor data, or stuff like that.
We're probably 4 or 5 months away from knowing that too.
From knowing that. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were saying that we need money to fund that analysis, and I know you guys are raising money right now. So what are you guys raising money for currently?
Well, one is the comprehensive fiscal analysis. It's out to bid. I think the bid's going to be awarded here very, very shortly, within the next couple weeks.
Great.
So, but we don't know the price tag to that bid yet either. So
Okay.
that's one thing we're
And
raising
LAFCO
money
takes
for.
care of all that.
No, we pay it,
Oh, you take
but
the
LAFCO approves
awards
the bid,
bids.
right?
That's what I
So
meant. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Great. And so I think another question that a lot of our viewers have is what would change in Olympic Valley after if the incorporation is successful? What would change in Olympic Valley if it was a successful
Well, the
incorporation?
key thing is the way decisions are made.
Mm-hmm.
That we know will change.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, local citizenry will be making decisions that affect local matters.
Right.
And that we know is a key change.
Mhm.
Substantively, in terms of what's going to happen in terms of buildings specifically, or in terms of some services, we don't know for sure. It depends on the town council.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know that the town is mandated for some very important services. One is police services.
Right.
One is planning,
Mm-hmm.
planning and development. And one is road maintenance and snow removal.
Right.
Now, I believe there are a couple others like animal control, and I'm not sure of the other one, but they won't be very, very large in terms of population's interest, nor a lot of money. But the other ones are.
Standard services.
Pardon?
Standard services for.
Yeah, pretty standard services, and most likely the police services will be awarded, contracted with the county, pretty much as they are, because we haven't heard of much dissatisfaction on that.
and that's one of the things that LAFCO is going to be looking at, is to make sure we can provide services at least equal to what the county already does for us.
That makes sense.
Our goal is to make better services, have better service, especially with snow removal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And but
Now, what
The
would
next
this,
question was, what would the San Francisco family that comes up here on the weekend, what differences would they see? That would be a big one, because I know snow removal is a
huge.
big topic, especially in the big winter, which hopefully we're going to have this year.
But what I see very, very different is the town and the ski holdings, Squaw Valley Ski Holdings, will be working together. They'll be forced to.
Right.
That we're very, very dependent on them for revenue. They're the largest landholder in the valley.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very dependent on us for all kinds of services. And so it's in our joint interest, once we become a town, to work together. So I see the lifting of all boats in this.
Fantastic.
yeah, I mean, we're all here to ski. That's
Yeah.
why people want to live here. So the last thing that I think anyone's trying to do is to hurt the ski area by any means. You know, we want them to be successful so that we always have a good place to ski.
There's a reason we live here.
That's the reason we live here.
If and when this incorporation of Olympic Valley comes to ballot, how many people would have to vote in favor of that motion for it to pass?
Majority.
The majority. So
Simple majority. That's-
simple majority.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. And I know a question that's been bounced around a lot is, would taxes rise? Because I know some people have said, oh, taxes would rise if we incorporate Olympic Valley.
Well, currently, right now, the state law is that taxes cannot go up unless the community votes for it to come up.
Okay.
So this community would have to vote for its taxes to go up, to have them go up.
And that's the only way they can
And
go
it's
up.
not to say that's good or bad, you know? Sometimes raising taxes is okay if it provides an overall better experience for everyone and people feel that they can afford that increase. But if they look at why that tax is being raised and they don't approve it, they vote no for it. And again, that's what it comes down to.
Great. Very cool.
Well, one other
go ahead.
point too, in terms of raising taxes.
Mhm.
First of all, we have a lot of revenue in this valley. It's about $5 million a year,
Wow.
as best as we can tell.
Mhm.
Well, actually a lot more is raised from property taxes. That's what would come to a town. And then there'd be the alimony that we talked about on top of that. So we already have a lot of revenue, but we would anticipate if there's new development, there'll be more revenue. There'll be more property taxes and there'll be more hotel taxes. And probably not a lot of more clearing of snow, of roads. You know, I mean, the expenses I don't see going up as much as the revenue. So that's another point in addition to what Tom said. Voters got to approve it, and the future looks bright.
So it's just a matter of the community having more say in how funds are spent and how services are provided.
And also having control of those revenues. Right now, out of the transient occupancy tax, the TOT, 60% comes this way, meaning east of the divide, east of Donner Summit.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of it, most of it goes to North Tahoe. Very little actually that's generated in Olympic Valley comes to Olympic Valley.
Stays in Olympic Valley.
Yeah, stated. And we don't argue that because North Tahoe is very, very important. They need to have marketing, they need to have transit, they need to have infrastructure. But 40% goes into the general fund and is not accounted for by the county.
And if the town was incorporated, local people here would have control of how
We collect
those
it.
funds were allocated.
Right, we'd have to, exactly.
I'd like to just go back and talk
And
about
it'd be public, it would be public where those monies go.
Right. Oh, that's great. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I just want to go back and talk about the revenue neutrality a little bit,
Please do.
just to make it a little clearer. So I'll just use an example like a police force. So right now the county spends, they're going to have to disclose how much money they spend on a year on police force. And then that money gets shifted over to the town. So that way they don't really lose it, then the police force is paid out of that money. So no one's like taking or losing money in that sense. It's still the same amount of money being spent.
Just allocated in different ways.
Just allocated different ways.
I like that.
Does that make sense?
You're absolutely right, that's.
An organization has popped up in Olympic Valley called Save Olympic Valley, and they are opposed to the incorporation of Olympic Valley. What do you know about this organization?
Well, we know that the advertisements that they put out and the pamphlets they put out, they state that it's underwritten by Squaw Valley Ski Holdings.
Okay.
So we're presuming that this is an organ primarily of Squaw Valley Ski Holdings. We don't know what percentage of their monies come from there or not. We're certainly aware that some of our neighbors are not in favor of incorporation. They're in the distinct minority, but there are some.
One of the points that Save Olympic Valley has brought up that they feel there may not be enough qualified people in this valley that could effectively run a town. And I was curious what your gentleman's thoughts on that are.
I think there's a lot of intelligent people that live in this valley that are very concerned about its future, and that they will step up and be be on call and ready to make this town happen. So the first thing that will need to be done is to elect a town council, whether that's 5 or 7 people, some odd number for voting. We'll hire a town manager, someone that will see the day-to-day process of running the town. So it doesn't have to be the town council that runs every minute thing, you know. The town council will make the overall decisions of what need to be done. And that person does not need to come from Olympic Valley. I mean, we can hire an expert from anywhere. Probably a lot of people that would love to live in this beautiful valley and have a nice job, you know. We'll hire out counsel, you know, to make sure that things are done legally.
Okay. I think Fred wanted to jump in.
I want to take a stab at that. Now, Miles, the question basically was questioning whether there are enough people with competence or interest to run such a town.
Right.
I frankly am insulted by that.
Okay.
I am insulted. This valley has such a high level of people with competence of all different kinds. That's one of the things I find time after time, that people who are expert in their field gravitate here. And even if they're not expert in a particular field, they've got to be pretty savvy to survive here because it's pretty high cost living here.
Right.
So they have to be pretty sharp. So we have a lot of sharp people involved. And when you have a town council making these big decisions, which we haven't been doing before, they've all been made down in the county seat in Auburn.
Right.
When you have these big decisions on the table, people want to be a part of it. Plus, the town council gets a stipend. So there's money in it.
Right.
And I'm sure there are folks who would like a little bit extra cash
Of
too.
course.
I have, and to say nothing of fame, Lord knows, the town council will have exposure and have some fame. So I have no doubts that we're going to have sufficient good people as town council members.
Ideas, favorites, suggestions, or nominees potentially for who potentially would be a mayoral candidate? I know a lot of times there's many people, but do you guys have any ideas? Is this something you can even touch right now?
Well, I'd like to see Fred on it.
Oh yeah?
No, I think it's a little early to tell right
Exactly.
now.
You know, right now, since I'm a physician, I feel like an obstetrician. Okay.
Birth is about
This
to
is
happen.
yeah. This is a pregnancy,
Okay.
and it's moving along. It's moving along. Okay.
Mhm.
And I want to see a live birth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to see a town happen.
Right.
Then after that, you can call in the pediatricians to take care of the
I
town.
like that. So in a way, IOV is a obstetrician.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a good
Now
way
the
to
other
put it.
thing that you mentioned in terms of, because people gravitate to sort of who's mayor. Actually, in a town like it would be run here, mayor would be one of 5. They have 1 of 5 votes
Okay.
of the town council. And they would be, as I understand it, and I haven't looked into this in a great deal, but they would be the titular head and the spokesperson and perhaps the one who runs the meetings of the town council. And that person is generally, in this form of town government, which most small towns in California have, Truckee has the same thing, for example. That person is the one who gets the most votes for town council. They are the first mayor, typically for 2 years, and then the person with the second most number of votes would be mayor for 2 years, and I don't know how it continues after that.
How soon, if this moved forward, how soon could this potentially come to ballot? So I know you were saying that the fiscal analysis might take 4 to 5 months, but just a guess. You know, this is just a basic timeline. So I think people are very curious how soon this potentially could come to ballot.
Well, it depends upon a number of things, variables that we don't have total control over.
Right.
You know, I mentioned the process, but we're required by law to go through a CEQA process, which is California Environmental Quality Act process.
Okay.
And it needs to be examined whether we need an environmental impact report.
Okay.
And if that's, and we're not turning a spade of dirt.
Mhm.
So we are hoping and counting on a negative declaration.
Right.
But if LAFCO decides that it needs to be something more extensive, and there are several choices, that will take extra time.
Okay.
So assuming there's a negative declaration, Tom, I would guess a year at the earliest to vote.
That's
around
what I
then.
was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So potentially 1 year from right now, this a ballpark, this could come to ballot, the incorporation of Olympic Valley.
Yeah.
Great. So everybody knows there's a big buzz in this valley about the new company that's purchased Squaw Valley. It's called KSL, the ski resort. They purchased the ski resort, and they have large plans for development. And I was curious, do you guys, what's your opinion of the development of, or what's IOV's opinion of the development of Squaw Valley?
I don't think it's necessarily as much about the development of what Squaw actually does. I think it's, right now, it's more about establishing a good general plan so that, you know, that we develop, you know, so things stay within zoning requirements.
Okay.
This is me personally,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta be careful about speaking personally versus for the incorporation, but I think that's what we really need, is to have good zoning and stick to it so that things don't get, you know, blown out of proportion.
And what does good zoning mean to you?
It means, you know, leaving this to a certain state that it can be enjoyed by a lot of people and not just overbuilt.
Okay.
I mean, like a city.
I've done a lot of traveling to different ski areas around the world, and I've seen places that, in my opinion, are way overbuilt. That it doesn't look right. It's crowded. It's congested. It doesn't leave the nature that this beautiful valley has right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would hate to see get lost in the future here. So zoning is a way of protecting open space.
But that was more of a personal opinion, maybe though. Personally, you
That's
you'd like to
definitely
see
a personal opinion. I think IOV. It's more about, you know, having the locals make that decision.
Right.
And not being made by Placer County down in Auburn, board of directors from whatever company it is that's here. Right now it's KSL, but it's not always going to be KSL.
Right.
It can be other people. So I think all we want to do is just get the local control here. And then it's up to, you know, the people that live here to make that general plan and to have the town council follow through and really set a good guideline.
I want to
Go
sort of
ahead,
add
Phil.
on to that because,
Please do.
you know, we have been accused of being anti-development.
Okay.
And that is absolutely not the case.
Mhm.
In fact, most of the people, not most, by far the majority, want to see something better done here than we have now. We feel it can be better. We would like to see development.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's got to be understood. And secondly, IOV is not about pro or anti-development. That's what gets done. We are about how it gets done,
Okay.
how the decision making goes on. That's what we're concerned about. We feel the supervisors in Auburn really don't know much about us, and they don't live here. They don't have to live with what is built, and we don't feel they have the understanding and the concern that the local citizenry does. They do have concern about how revenues flow to them, and of course that makes you, the more development you have, the more revenues are produced. So we feel that there's a strong bias in that way. So it's how it's done, not what is done.
So at the end of the day, you potentially could say that IOV is not anti-development. You are pro-local decision making.
Absolutely.
To say it very base.
Right on.
KSL, the company that owns the ski resort here, Squaw Valley, and Andy Worth is the CEO and president, have more or less come out publicly against the incorporation of Olympic Valley. And you know, I'm curious, what's your gentleman's interaction with KSL and Andy Worth up to this point?
We've held a lot of public meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and we've even invited Andy
Right.
and several other members there at the ski area to come to our meetings to be educated on this process as much as we are.
And have they come?
I have not seen them yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
They've never identified themselves
Okay.
as being affiliated with KSL, and I know a number of the faces, as does Tom, and we haven't seen them.
Yeah.
And how many people generally come to these meetings, just for a ballpark number?
Smallest number is maybe 15.
Mm-hmm.
Largest number was 60
Okay.
last month, so in that neighborhood.
And how many of these meetings have you folks had?
Monthly, they've been monthly. How
Monthly.
many so far, public
Right.
meetings?
Yeah.
5 or 6.
Yeah,
Okay, so for the past 5 or
Yeah.
6 months, there's been a monthly IOV meeting.
yeah.
Okay, great.
And it's the first Tuesday of every month at the Squaw Valley Public Service District, 7 p.m.
Great, well, we'll make sure to include that in the
Well,
report.
It's really a learning process. This, you know, whether incorporation is a right fit for us. We're still learning it ourselves, and if LAFCO passes us, they feel that it's okay for us to be our own town, then it's going to be up to the voters of this area to make that decision.
Mhm.
And when it gets to that point, I feel the most important thing is that it's an educated decision.
Right.
And that's why we're trying to have all these public meetings, is so that whether you're for it or against it, when you go vote yes or no, it's based on an educated decision.
People who are against the incorporation of Olympic Valley, what points have they brought up that you have heard
That are
And-
against it?
and are against it? So we mentioned earlier that some people feel like they're against it because there may not be enough people in the valley that could potentially do that well, that could run a
One
town well.
point that's not been explicitly made that I'd like to hear voiced,
Mhm.
which I think is a central concern. And it seems to be all these other peripheral questions like we're not fiscally viable, or we don't have qualified people, or we're too small a town and so forth. And these, as we know from the advertisements, are backed by Squaw Valley Ski Holdings.
Okay.
And it would just be refreshing if they come out with their real reason that they don't want the town, which probably has to do with local say over land use. But if that's their concern, that's something that would be nice to have on the table.
Right, and so which comes back to my previous question, is that your interactions with KSL and Andy Worth sounds like they've been minimal to nil.
Well, that's not so, because I've had 2 meetings with him so far.
You have, okay.
And
What did you learn
he's
from that
asked
meeting?
for a third.
Okay, great.
And basically, what we've been doing, Of course, he has his arguments against incorporation, I have my arguments for incorporation. But what we've been doing is, bit by bit, and I think it's going to increase, explore the advantages, mutual advantages, to having a town, to the ski corporation as well as the town. I mean, they're going to be mutually interdependent. And not just that, having a town, and we can parse this out financially. We have a financial guy working on this, and he's going to share the numbers, if they're willing, with Ski Holdings, how it's in their financial interest to have a town. Because a town can get grants, for example.
Right.
You know, we can get grants, and those grants can benefit the whole valley. And their grants are out there.
In your meetings with Andy Worth, has he brought up any viable points to not incorporate that you thought held water?
The only one I can think of is that it would delay somewhat the development plans, because we do need to pull together a general plan. And that takes some time. Although in some ways this is happening now with other organizations in the valley putting together what sort of design and specific plan they'd like to see. So in some ways the general plan is being developed now. But that's the only thing that there would be, I think, more delay possibly, maybe not, but possibly, for the Ski Holdings. That's the only one I can think of. Can you think of any disadvantage, Tom?
No, I really haven't been able to, and I agree, you know, we don't want to slow the process down of having the detachable on Red Dog and stuff like that, you know. And
Right. Ski specific stuff,
Yeah.
of course. But that potentially could be, that very well could be why, one of the reasons why KSL may be opposed to the incorporation of Olympic Valley, if they thought it could slow down the development plans that they have.
Well, that, and they are questioning the whether local people, the town council, would be supportive of development.
Right.
They are questioning that. As I said before, if they were more publicly questioning, I think it would be more forthright.
And could, if in Olympic Valley Incorporated, could a town council stop development on Squaw Valley, or that's not part of the council's power?
I don't think it, you know, it's private land, and
Right.
you can't keep people from developing appropriately on private land.
Okay.
So I don't think we could stop
especially if
it.
it's within the zoning requirements, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that, it's when you start changing zoning, that's when you have to, you know, go through a lot more hoops to make it.
And ski towns
Mhm.
being very, very successful. And the ones that come to my mind, in particular, I've spent a lot of time at Aspen and Snowmass. And there's one corporation, Aspen Snowmass Corporation, that owns 4 mountains, 4 separate ski areas.
Right.
And there's one town, Aspen, which abuts Ajax, or the main ski area, Aspen ski area. And they work hand in glove together.
Right.
And Aspen, of course, has been wildly successful.
Yeah, I've heard it's the most expensive real estate in the United States.
It might be, I don't know. I know that Vail, the town and the ski area collaborate a lot. Exactly what their relationship is, I don't know. But when I was passing through there, I grabbed the newspaper this summer that said they're spending, the town is spending, now how much of this money comes from the ski area, I don't know, I imagine a fair amount, is spending $3 million on events alone
Wow.
in Vail. So I see a collaboration going on there. I'd certainly like to look into places like Telluride and Park City also, and there may be other spots too.
Yeah, I think a way to look at it too is long term. You know, it's not going to happen fast. The town is not going to happen fast, but the collaboration between a town and a ski area, I think, is something that will evolve over time and eventually become probably a good entity together. You know,
It's a win-win. It's not a win-lose
Yeah.
situation.
and again, it's for our future. You know, it's not about something immediate like building and selling. It's about developing a long-term community.
Right.
I think that's the biggest advantage of being a town.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys are very confident that a symbiotic relationship could form between the ski resort and the local community.
definitely.
I think the Squaw Valley Ski Holdings has a remarkable opportunity. I mean, it's very buildable land, it's all flat, it's at the base of one of the best mountains in North America, and they can make an iconic ski town. And so we're excited about that. And it matters, the details matter in this, and as Tom said, there's a lot of characteristics that we have now that we want to retain, so we pay attention to the details.
And IOV sounds like you guys feel like this ski zone, this ski town, could be even more iconic with the ski resort and the local community working together.
Yes.
For the long term, most definitely. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much, Fred.
Thank you,
Thank
Miles.
you. Tom,
Nice
thank you
one,
so
Miles.
much for
Thank
talking to us
you.
today. This
Yeah.
was a great interview, and I hope that our viewers got a lot of information out of that. And if we get any more questions, we'll have to come back to you guys with those.
Please do.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.